agenda of this session is going to be we will solve some problem, and we will also look some last class we have done some velocity triangle, right? So and today we'll see some special cases of velocity triangle, and we'll solve some problem, and we will go to the characteristics of centrifugal compressor. That will be the agenda of today's session. Fine. So before getting started, let's recap the basic things. What are the basic component of a centrifugal compressor? So we have seen four important components. One is a inlet casing, where actually it is entering. So this is a side view of your centrifugal compressor. Then we have impeller, diffuser, and the volute. These are the four important components. Now we need to remember this formula, and using this formula we will with the help of this formula we will find out the unknown parameters. Okay, these formulas are going to be helpful for your when you are solving the problem, right? So if in this question they are asking something like impeller I, okay, so impeller I is that from where it is entering, okay, the entering, and the tip is going to be at the end, okay, or the end when it is leaving out of the diffuser. So how you can find the density in case the density is not given in the question? So we can use this formula P1 by RT1. Now what is the how we can find out the mass flow rate of the fluid which is entering inside the centrifugal compressor? So mass flow rate entering into the centrifugal compressor or through the impeller I or whatever they have mentioned. So this is going to be the general formula. M dot equals to pi by 4 d T1 square minus d of H1. Now what is T1? You can see from this schematic figure, okay, T1 is a tip where it is exiting, and d H1 is a hub where it is entering. So they can sometimes also mention by the I inlet or I exit, okay. So they can also use this hub and tip. So either of the way they can ask. So this is a general formula for finding the mass flow rate. Okay. So what is DHI? Already we have said it is the I hub, okay, or the inlet we can say. Okay, inlet we can say. And sometimes they might also ask you like what are the important or significant factor for I hub. So I in the sense impeller I also you can say, or impeller I hub diameter d suffix H1. Okay, so it is to determine the what should be the Mach number. Okay, so what is the ideal Mach number? So this is play a very important role at what speed it is entering, because we have seen the basic purpose of this, because the accelerated fluid is going to enter into the impeller. But in case of impeller, what happens, there will be a static increase in static pressure. That means increase in static pressure means the kinetic energy is drastically going down. As further it is moving to the diffuser, again there will be further reduction in the velocity, but in the increase in pressure, right? Now coming to the two cases, important cases. One is without inlet guide vane, one is a with inlet guide vane. Okay, two purposes we are going to see. Now before getting started with the inlet guide vane, let's have a general recap of our velocity triangle at the inlet. Okay, so what we have seen, the velocity triangle. So we used to generally make the draw something like this. Right, and the vertical line is always the CR. Okay, I'm not giving any suffix because I'm not representing any inlet or exit. I'm just making a simple layout. So here we used to write C. Okay, this angle is going to be alpha, because one small tricks I've said, C alpha W beta. So C alpha, here we are having W, this one is a beta. Simple tricks. And the complete one is a U, and here to here is our vril motion, CW. Okay, C suffix W, vril or tangential you can say. So this is a basic you can say general construction of the centrifugal compressor. Either it's an inlet or exit, and this parameter will change based on the which condition we are taking, whether it's a radial flow or for the exit it depends on radial, backward and forward. Fine. Now we have seen the exit one. Now we are going to see the difference in the inlet one. So inlet guide vane, if it is not there, if they precisely mention that it is without inlet guide vane. So if they are considering without inlet guide vane, okay, so remember in that case alpha 1 is equal to 90 degree. Okay, that means if now I consider this velocity triangle for an inlet condition, okay, inlet condition. So previously we have seen for the exit condition. So this is a upstream inlet when it is entering inside the blade, okay, inducing inside the blade. So when it is entering, remember I have said it is entering as a relative velocity, and when it is expelling out or leaving out from the blade or tip, it will be a absolute velocity. That's how. Okay, now this is an important again an important point to note down. Okay, it's for the recap, already we have discussed. Now here today we'll mainly focus with the inlet condition. For inlet condition, two conditions are there. One is without inlet vane, and one is a with inlet vane. Now without inlet vane, first condition is the alpha 1. What is alpha 1? I have said it is the absolute air angle. Okay, absolute air angle. Okay, so basically it will be deals with something called as a absolute. So you have to identify absolute inlet air angle is 90 degree. Now how we can make this configuration if it is without inlet guide vane? So this has to be 90 degree, just like that how we have done for the radial case at the exit. So this alpha has to be 90. So this all those things will be shifting over here, right? This line is going to fall on this. So can I say this line is going to shift over this line? So if I am shifting this line over here, so can I mention CR is equal to C? Now this is the inlet case, so I will write CR1 equal to C1. What is C1? C1 is the absolute velocity. C1 is the absolute inlet velocity, and CR1 is a radial velocity, inlet radial velocity. Fine. Now if CR1 equals to C1, then what will be the CW? Because it will not exist any longer. So for this without inlet vane, CW1 is going to be 0. CW1 is going to be 0. Or in some book here, as in this book it is mentioned, CT1 is also going to be 0. Fine. If it is 0, now we will get something like right angle triangle formation, where we have some existing of beta, and this is
Hello.
alpha. Please hello. So okay, So let's come back to this focus on this topic, right? And please, I request all of you to mute yourself, right? So there will be no background noise, so the recording session will be having a better clarity, right? So alpha 1 is equal to 90 degree. Fine. So we can say that CR1 equals to C1, and exactly this W1 will be exactly W1, and one condition we can see CT1 or CW1 equal to 0, and from here to here is a U1 as before. So you can see exactly the same configuration you can find. Now in case any one of the unknown parameter, whatever they ask, so using tan beta 1, tan beta means height by base, so you can write C1 by U1 or CA1 or R1, any configuration you can take, any kind of notation you can take. Now if you take sine beta 1,
Your screen is not visible.
screen is not
Now it is
visible.
visible. Now
Okay,
it is visible.
fine, fine. Sine beta 1 means height by hypotenuse CR1 by W1 or C1 by W1. Then similarly, if you want to any other alternative parameter, cos beta 1 equals to U1 by W1. Based on the parameter given in the construction, you can find out the unknown parameter. Now here you have to see in the question they have asked without inlet guide vane or with. This is a condition. Remember, the prime condition is without inlet vane means alpha 1 is going to be 90 degree. You know the basic configuration, so from here you can switch and make your own schematic field. Now from this particular section, what are the different type of question can come? One is a problem. They can ask you that they might mention you that this is a inlet guide vane problem, and from that problem they will specify you some parameter and they will ask you the unknown parameter. Second, they will precisely mention you some kind of short question, the without inlet guide vane, or instead of without inlet guide vane they can also write like without IGV in short. Okay, in short we can also write IGV. So in that IGV, what will be the alpha value? They can ask like will be 30 degree, 40 degree, 90 degree, right? What should be the alpha value? So in case they might have also given you some W1 value and C1 value, and they will ask what will be the beta value, beta 1 value. So using again numericals you can find out or obtain the value. They can also ask what should be the real angle. They can give you fill in the blanks with this much meter per second, right? What should be the real value in case of without inlet guide vane? Very simple. So obviously in this case it's going to be 0. Now if they sometimes they can ask write down in 2 decimal place. So if in case this kind of question they're asking 2 decimal place, so 0.00 you have to mention that. Okay, so such kind of tricks they can use. So you might think it is already 0, so you might avoid that 0.00. Okay, so here all the in the gate question they are evaluating through computerized. So any if they're mentioning the 2 decimal place, so press even though it's 0.00 whatever the decimal place they are mentioning, ensure that. All right, these are the tricks, these are the topic that they can questions, possible questions that they can ask. Now we will move for the without inlet vane configuration. Okay, so without inlet vane configuration, just a reverse case. Okay, here the beta 1 is going to be 90 degree. Okay, beta 1 is going to be 90 degree. And let me clarify you one thing. Here inlet guide vane means whenever this IGV we are going to see in an inlet condition or upstream. upstream condition. So sometimes in the question they can also mention you like upstream condition and downstream condition. Downstream condition will be the second case when it is leaving out from the impeller blade. That is going to be your downstream condition, which we have seen in the last class. Okay, so the radial curve, backward curve and forward curve, those things are the downstream condition. And today we are seeing the upstream condition with and without inlet vane or the inlet condition. Okay, fine. So in the without condition, without IGV, the alpha 1 is 90 degree, and here with inlet guide vane the beta 1 equals to 90 degree. Okay, so remember this tricks, it is very confusing to remember this schematic diagram. So that's why I have always given you the simple diagram, always when you're practicing. Okay, while you're practicing, always make the schematic diagram to avoid your confusion, and write down all the nomenclature, the velocity, basic velocity diagram. And this kind of thing they will be mentioning that whether it's for centrifugal compressor or for the axial compressor or any other, even this kind of conditions, whatever the type of that, whether it's a compressor problem, whether it's a turbine problem, they'll be mentioning you in the question, so you don't have to worry about that. So U1, this is a CW1 from here to here, and this is going to be your C1, alpha 1, CR1, this is a W1, this is a beta 1. Fine, this is a general construction. Now from here, inlet guide vane, the beta 1 is given as 90 degree. So if that means this one is going to transform to this line. Okay, this line, this W1 line, velocity line, is going to transform over here, right? So how we can transform again? So it will become like this. Okay, now one more type of question, it's quite obvious. Okay, they might give you different types of velocity diagram, and they might ask you to identify which is the correct velocity diagram for so and so condition. So for that type of question also, this knowing the schematic diagram is also very important. Fine, they can also ask you this type of question. Now here I said the beta 1 is 90 degree, so I have made, so this one is going to converge over here. So here I can write CR1 is equal to W1. This is beta 1 equals to 90 degree, right? So can I say then here CW1 is equal to U1. Can I say it again? CW1 equals to U1, and here alpha 1 will be exactly how it is before, right? Now they will give you some schematic diagram, and they will ask you to identify the conditions. Now this is not no slip condition. Okay, this is not an no slip condition. No slip condition is when CW2 is equal to U2. This is a concept for no slip condition, right? And if CW1 equals to U1 is not a no slip condition. Keep this thing in mind. So they can also ask you or make you confused in that. Please, these are the important points, right? So this is how the GATE exam will make you confused. You just be particular with the things, right? Now how you can find the unknown parameter? Take any one, like here tan alpha 1. Tan alpha 1, what is the height by base? So you can write CR1 by CW1, or CR1 by U1, or W1 by CW1, or W1 by U1. Four possibilities you can write using tan alpha 1. Okay, similarly sin alpha 1, sin cos alpha 1, you can also write that likewise. Fine. So this is the output from here. Sin alpha 1, what are the things you can write? Height by hypotenuse. So CR1 or W1, this is or, okay, or W1 by hypotenuse is C1. Cos alpha 1, what you can write? Base by hypotenuse. So CW1 or U1 by C1. So based on the given data, similar kind of problems can ask from here. Now let's look into some of the important facts. Okay. Yes, please.
What are the advantages of having inlet guide wings and without having inlet guide wings?
Yes, that's what I'm coming to say that. Okay, that is the
Okay.
next point. Okay,
Okay.
right. Now sometimes with inlet guide wheel, okay, with, so this is also known as a pre-wheel condition. Okay, so using this pre-wheel condition, the benefits that we can avoid the shock wave formation, because at we will study some surging and choking. Okay, already you have studied. So there are certain phenomena that happen in the centrifugal compressor, surging and choking. Choking is a one condition that at some point when the flow is moving over the blades, it will reach to the sonic. So once it reaches the sonic, obviously it will create some shock wave formation, and due to the shock wave it can create some, obviously it can destruct the blade, it can damage the blade, it can cause a reverse flow, flow separation, boundary layer distractions, turbulences, stalling. There are lot many possibilities it can occur. So this pre-wheel conditions, is to avoid the shock wave formation. Okay, so due to that, if they avoid the shock wave formation, there is a chances of reducing the losses. And what type of losses, that also we will see in the today's session, that what are the different types of losses and what are the reason, more detail about the losses we'll see. Now what are the disadvantages using this? So what happens, the overall output, okay, the oiler's output is slightly reduced, and due to that the pressure, as the output and the pressure ratio is also leads to decrease because of this pre-wheel configuration. So these are the advantages. So any kind of technology play an dual role, like just like a two side of a coin. So it will act as advantage, it will also act as a disadvantages. Fine. So advantage is it avoids the shock wave formation and reduces the losses. So due to that, it has to undergo some less amount of output will form, and due to that the pressure ratio will also be less, and it is also slightly reduces the efficiency, because if pressure ratio and the your efficiency are again directly connected with each other. Fine. So this is the pressure ratio formula which we have already seen right here in this, right, this one. So if the pressure ratio decreases, right, so again it will affect the efficiency as well, right. So these are the advantages and disadvantages having the pre-wheel condition. Now let's come back to the problem. Okay, let's solve the problem. Now a centrifugal compressor has to deliver 35 kg of air per second. Okay, sometimes when you are solving any problem, you may not be able to identify the given facts that they are asking in the question. So you can also have a look onto the units. See, using unit you will able to identify what actually they have asked in the question. The impeller is 76 centimeter diameter, revolving at 11500 rpm with an adiabatic efficiency 80%. If the pressure ratio is 4.2 is to 1, that is 4.2, estimate the probable axial width of the impeller at the impeller tip if the radial velocity is so and so. The inlet condition, they have given the inlet condition as well. Okay. Now in this particular problem, first you need to identify what they have asked. They have asked the what is the width of the impeller. Okay, what is the width of the impeller, and with the width, so they have given so and so parameter. Now first identify the parameter. This is, they have given the mass flow rate. So mass flow rate of air per second has been given. Then they have given the impeller diameter. Now 76 centimeter. So always try to convert the units in terms of meter. So can I write 0.76 meter? The diameter is given. Again they have given RPM. So we have seen some formula also with the RPM. N is given. Efficiency, they have given the efficiency. Pressure ratio, RC is given. Right? Impeller tip, okay, so radial velocity is given. So what is the radial velocity? CR. Okay, CR value is given, and the inlet conditions they have given are that is 1 bar and 76 degrees centigrade. So here in this question, neither they have mentioned that it's like whether it's without inlet guide vane or with inlet guide vane. So if they have not mentioned any type of scenario or backward or any other thing, so you have to go with a general configuration, right? You have to go with a general. Neither you have to take without inlet guide vane or with inlet guide vane. Now whenever this kind of questions, so you have to write down some couple of formula how you can relate this with the unknown factor. Let's consider the width as W. This is a thing we have to find. Okay. Now what is a formula? Based on the given data, let's first write down the formula. What is a mass flow rate formula? M equals to rho A V. Okay. M equals to rho A V. Right? Now do you know V? So V, instead of V, we will use rho A CR. That is a radial velocity we'll use. So CR is known, M dot is known, rho is unknown, A is also unknown. Now what is A formula? There is another formula of A is pi, as they have given width. So pi D into W. So D is given in the question, width which we need to find out. Then they have also given efficiency. So we can make use of efficiency formula. What is efficiency?
Area is equal to pi by 4
Pi by d square by 4, right? Yes.
Pi by 4.
Pi d square by 4, right? You're talking about that. But yes, that's right. But if in case they have given the width, okay, if they have given the width, we need to use this formula. Okay, that's what I said. If they have given the width, you need to use this formula. Fine, please note it down this. So they have given efficiency formula, you know, T naught 1 RC, so gamma minus 1 by gamma, right, minus of 1 T naught 2 minus T naught 1. Okay. Done. So from the given data we can see from here efficiency is given. Now pressure ratio is also known, as it is an adiabatic condition, so gamma is 1.4. So we can find this T naught 1. So the inlet value which they have given is a T naught 1. This, let's consider this P naught 1. So this is also known, right? Now we have discussed one more formula to find out the rho. What is the formula of rho? P by R T. So P is also given, T value is also given, we can find rho. So rho will also be known. So just have a look for the mass flow rate. We can find rho value, this is value is given, CR value is given. So from here we can find out the area. Okay, m dot by rho by CR, we can find the area. Now once we find out the area, we will equate with this pi dw. So d is also known. From here we will find this a value as well. Pi is, you know the pi value, so you can find area equals to pi by d equals to w. You can find out that. Can you? Can you find out likewise? So use that and find out the answer. These are the formulas that you have to use. Okay. Now one more thing. Here they have given rho, right? Rho equals to P by RT. Now whether you will use the inlet condition or the exit condition, which condition will you use here? Which condition will you use here? Whether you will use, P naught 1 by R T naught 1 or P naught 2 by R T naught 2. Which condition will you use? You can unmute and say. Anyone? No. No, they have said centrifugal compressors delivered this much. That means delivered means it's not saying entering with this much mass flow rate. It's delivered, right? It's moving across. And we are finding the probable axial width impeller at the impeller tip. They have not said at the eye. Okay, they have used at the impeller tip. That means at the exit. They want the answer at the exit. Okay, again one more important point to note down, at the exit. So we need to use this formula. So these are the tricks that you have to remember. Read the question carefully and identify whether to use P01 or RT01, right? Now what is RC? RC is P02 by P01. So P01 is given, so easily you can find P02. Right? So see the question, estimate the probable axial width of the impeller at the impeller tip. Okay, they have not said the eye. Tip is when? It is just before the entry of the Diffuser. That's what I have said in the first point today. See, tip is this point. Okay, entrance is the hub. So if they're giving hub, the tip, so likewise you have to remember which one you have to consider. So they have given hub or the eye or the tip. Tip is at the exit one. Hub or the inlet they have mentioned is the entrance one. So this thing you have to ensure. Alright, is it clear right now why you have to use 2? So these are the important things actually. And
getting T02 is 122.73 Kelvin.
just a second, which value?
T02 is equal to 122.73 Kelvin.
T02 equals to, can you repeat once again?
122.73 Kelvin, ma'am.
No, I think there is a mistake. It's not that. How you can find T02? See, use this equation. You know RC value, you know the gamma value. Fine. T0 value 47 means in degree centigrade. So 47 plus 273, which will be close to, here 0, here we have 2, we have add-on 1, this is the value of T01, right? And when you're putting here, it should not be 80, it should be 0.8. When you're substituting here, it should be 0.8 as well. Yes, that's the answer. T02, it's around 522 point some fraction.
522.72.
Yes, 72. Okay. So once you find the T02, you can find the P02 from here, right? Is 1. So P02 is your 4.2 bar. So into 10 power 5 will become Pascal. So you can find what is a rho value. R value is going to be constant, 287. So you will get your rho naught 2 value. And what will be the unit? It will be getting in kg per meter cube.
Ma'am, 2.79 kg per meter cube.
Very good. Okay, 2.79 kg per meter cube. Excellent. Now what you're going to do, you can substitute in this equation and equate it. You can completely take this as a complete equation. So your mass flow rate is 35, 2.79, CR value is 120. Here you're getting again divided by your pi value, d value is 0.76. You will get this W. Okay. See, gate, as I've said, okay, it's always you need to use more than one formula. So continuity equation you have studied in aerodynamics, right? So that you are getting implemented over here. So always you need to remember, they always ask the question which is having some connectivity. So you have to be alert. Okay, and here again when you are giving the answer, just ensure that what is the unit. Okay, give me the answer in 3 decimal place. Okay, and unit is in meter. Unit is in meter.
From 0.043.
Excellent. Okay, so this is the width, but in case they are asking in mm or other things, so you always have to be ensure what is a unit. So most of the time now we used to forget. Okay, so please remember these things, whatever the most of the possible chances that you can face, right? Clear? I hope all of you have solved this problem. Now next, switch to next problem. A centrifugal compressor has an inlet eye 15 cm diameter. The impeller revolves at 200 rpm and inlet air has an axial velocity of 107 meter per second. Inlet stagnation temperature 294 Kelvin, inlet pressure 1.03 kg per meter square. Determine theoretical angle of the blade at this point and the Mach number of the flow at the tip of the eye. This is another interesting problem. So here again you have to understand the twist. Okay, the major twist. The centrifugal compressor has an inlet eye diameter. They have given the inlet eye diameter, that means D1 is given. It's 15 centimeter, 0.15 meter. The impeller revolves, again they have given n value. Okay, n value is given. Now what is the relation with the n? You can find u equals to pi d1 n by 60. You will get the u1. Then the inlet air has an axial velocity. Okay, axial velocity they have given, so it's CR1. Okay, CR1. Then inlet stagnation temperature T01 is given. Pressure, let's take P01 or P1, both are going to be the same for this inlet condition. And here very importantly, this is kg per meter square. Okay, now how can you convert this kg per centimeter square into Newton per meter square? So you need to convert, which is equal to Pascal. Fine, this is very important. Now what they have asked, theoretical angle of the blade at this point. So what will be the beta 2, sorry, inlet, right? So it is a beta 1. What should be the inlet angle? How will you solve this problem? So when they are asking to give some angle, first and foremost draw the outline. Okay, CR1, here they have given beta 1. This is W1, which is a radial velocity. This complete one is U1. This is C1 and this is CW1. Yes, please.
In this question, they didn't give inlet guide wings, so directly we can take alpha as 90 and go.
Yes, exactly. Some of the times, okay, as they have not given, okay, that's what I was coming to the point. As they have not given this alpha value, okay, so if they're asking to find out other one, so in that case you have to assume that without IGV. So if it is without IGV, what I said, the alpha 1 is going to be 90 degree. That means, can I make such kind of the construction of this thing is going to change. So CR1 is going to C1, right? CW2 will be 0, and from here to here is going to be your U1. Now you check, in this condition you have the value of U1, you have the value of CR1 as well as C1. Now can you find beta 1? Height by base. Can you find out? Tan beta 1 equals to C1 or R1 by U1. What is CR1? 107. U is, you can find the U using this formula. Put it over here.
157.07 U value.
Okay, just let me check. Beta value is?
Beta value 34.26.
Okay, 34.26 degree. Excellent. So this is done. Next is Mach number of the flow at the tip of the eye. Read the question carefully. Read the question carefully. So let me give you one difference. In this problem, what you have studied, estimate the probable axial width of the impeller at the impeller tip. Okay, and here is the Mach number of the flow at the tip of the eye. There is a difference. Okay, and tell me what you have to find over here.
Static temperature.
Static?
Temperature.
No, what is the value you have to find here? My question is what you have to find.
First,
Whether you have to find M1, because they are asking for a Mach number of the flow, right? So Mach number of the flow M1 or M2, what you have to find?
M1.
Exactly, M1. We have to find M1. So what is the Mach number of M1? How we can relate? So what is the usual one? Velocity by root over of gamma r t, right? This is a formula. Now chalo, we can find this t1 also. We can find the t1, but which one you are going to consider as the this velocity? Which velocity will you take? Will you take c1? Will you take w1 or cr1? Which one will you take? Which one will you consider?
relative.
Relative, exactly. Because what is the concept? Because when the flow is entering inside the impeller blade, okay, it will be of relative, and when it's expelling out, it will be the axial. So here we have to use w1 by gamma r t1. This is a formula. So do you know what is W1? How can you find W1? It is not known. So you can use any on the concept from beta 1. So let's take sine beta 1 equals to height CR1 by W1. CR1 is known, beta 1 is known. From here you can find what is a W1. Okay. Now how to find this? Gamma is also known. It's 1.4. R is 287. T1. Here they have given stagnation temperature, but we need a static temperature. Again you have to use a relation. Remember this relation. Quite some time you have to use this relation. That is T01 minus T1 equals to CR2 by 2 Cp, where Cp is 1.005 kilojoule per kg Kelvin. T01 is given, Cr is also given. Okay, substitute, you can find what is a T1 in Kelvin, put it back in this equation, and you will get the result of what is a M1. There are lot many questions you can find in a gate. You need to make use of this equation, the relation between the static and the stagnation. Okay. And in the beginning of gas turbine also we have discussed this formula. We have taken V1. Instead of this we have taken V1 by twice of Cp. And when you are using for centrifugal or any other compressor, you have to take the V instead of V CA, that is the axial or the radial velocity you have to consider. Okay. And tell me the answer, what is a Mach number in 2 decimal place?
0.547.
No, again you have done the mistake. I said 2 decimal place.
0.54.
Okay, 0.54, or you are getting 0.56. So that will be the answer. Okay, that will be the answer. You should ensure the thing that what I am asking, okay, or what the gate, what type of answer they are looking for. So this is a very important thing actually. Okay, so when you are practicing, practice likewise. Okay, so these are the problem which I will give you for the assignments. Okay, so and along with that we'll give you the solution. Okay. Now let's look to the another important part, that some of the phenomena that occurs in a centrifugal compressor: surging and choking. So you can expect one mark question or multiple selection type of question from this particular topic. First of all, what is a definition of surging? Surging is one kind of phenomena which causes due to unsteady flow, periodic flow, that is at some particular time it will move. Unsteady flow also, you know, it's with there is some change in flow with respect to time, so which is also called as a periodic flow, which we'll call stalling. You know what reverse flow, so which leads to adverse pressure gradient. Okay, so due to that adverse pressure gradient, the mass flow rate drastically decreases. Okay, drastically decreases. Now you have to remember this diagram. Sometimes they can also ask you, they will give you the diagram and ask you the important the significant points of this diagram. So first I will label this A. This is as B, this is C, D, and then E. Okay. Okay. So B is a point, okay, where we have maximum pressure ratio. Obviously, so it's a graph between the mass flow rate and the pressure ratio. So what you can observe in the point A, so point A, let's start from the 0. So here the mass flow rate is 0, right? But still there is some pressure. Now at this point E, as compared with the point A, there is some increase in mass flow rate, but at the same time we are having drastically some pressure issue, but which is higher than point A. Now the point B is a point at some extent of mass flow rate we are having with the maximum pressure ratio. C is a point, okay, which is ideally known as the point of choking. Point of choking. Why we call as a point of choking? It's a point where we have the maximum mass flow rate. But if you see the graph, D is a point we are having again further extension, okay, but ideally we can say as ideally is a point where we have the maximum mass flow rate. Let's take some mass flow rate here. This is a maximum mass flow rate. Now what you can see at the mass flow rate at this point, if C is a starting of choking, what happens, the mass flow is the pressure ratio decreases as compared with where you should be high, because we know the function of compressor which increases the pressure ratio, but at this point choking is a point, the increase of mass flow rate with a decrease of pressure ratio, okay. Due to the reason behind the surging and choking is quite interconnected, again there is some reverse flow, and due to the reverse flow, this is what the pressure ratio is drastically, the pressure is building up in the, and we can call as a pressure ratio is adversely increasing, okay, pressure ratio is adversely increasing. So this is a B to C is a point where we call as a ideal operating location, or sorry, operating zone, where we should be ideally the pressure ratio should lie on. But if actually this point will be something below this, okay, and if the pressure ratio lies from this B point to A point, it will start to surge. It will call stalling, it will be having unsteady flow, flow will not be flowing properly, there is a decrease in mass flow rate, okay. So if it is less than mass flow rate of the operating zone, we call it surging. If it extending the mass flow rate from the operating zone, or from we can say as a optimized condition, so we call as a choking operation, okay. That's a fundamental difference between this surging and the choking, and in between this B to C point is an operating zone, and C is a point which is the starting of the choking. The drastically the mass flow rate started to increase and decrease in pressure ratio, and here the surging is decrease in mass flow rate drastically, okay, at certain extent of pressure ratio. But ultimately neither of these zone are acceptable. We don't want neither a surging nor the choking. All this kind of things happens, and due to that it leads to increase in vibration. Okay, and if it creates a vibration, it can further leads to damage of blades. The blades get damaged, losses flow losses, so which will not perform, or the engine efficiency will fall. So these are the possible causes that occur in this zone. Now what you have to remember, these important points. Okay, important points, especially what is a point A to B, it's a zone of surging. B to C is a operating zone, or sometimes they also call as useful operational range. So they may ask you some MCQ questions that what are the possible points will be for the useful operating range. C is a point of choking. Okay, further in the point C to D. Okay, C to D is a choking range. Clear? Think with these things we have done. Okay, now coming to that, what are the different losses? Basically the losses can be classified into, one is the incident loss and the frictional loss. So what are the facts that comes under the frictional loss? Is the absolute velocity and the mass flow rate. This proportional to square of absolute velocity and the mass flow rate. Okay, these are the parameters. And incident loss, the proportional to the drag coefficient, to the CD power C2 square. C is the, again comes the absolute velocity. Okay, the product of the drag coefficient and the absolute velocity. So you need to remember these terminologies. So incident loss is directly proportional. That means if the drag coefficient increases, incident loss will also increases. Along with that, the product of drag coefficient and the absolute velocity will also increase. So the incident loss will also increase. Then comes frictional loss. If the square of the absolute velocity increases, so it will lead to an frictional loss. Again, mass flow rate, if it increases, as we have seen in the choking condition, beyond the operating zone, if it increase, so again that will lead to which loss? Frictional loss. Okay, now this is a general understanding that difference between axial and centrifugal. So this kind of difference is also going to be helpful when you are going for application based. So what will be the range of mass flow rate, which engine it is applicable, what should be the range of efficiency, the especially the pressure ratio, okay, and the cost. Okay, so first let's see. Centrifugal compressor is going to be usually implemented for the small engine, which we have already seen in the introductory part of the centrifugal. Axial for the large engine. That's why for most of the heavy vehicles like transport, cargo, fighter, they prefer to use an axial compressor. For small aircraft they use for the centrifugal one. But looking into the mass flow rate, okay, so these are the optimum range of mass flow rate, or you can say operating mass flow rate. Fine. So operational mass flow rate is limited for the centrifugal is within 15 kg per second. But whereas here it is almost more than 100 kg per second. Okay, this again depends on the different types of performance of the axial. Now this again quite related with the thrust, the level of thrust. Okay, so again level of thrust with the engine is again connected. Then comes efficiency. What should be the level of efficiency range? For centrifugal 86 to 87, axial it is 94. Okay, so here efficiency point of view is also is more. Centrifugal we don't use much of the stages, but obviously each for axial when we look for that we'll see the number of stages. We will talk about the number of stages here, and that's how each and every stages the pressure ratio is getting built up. Okay, so here in each stages, per stages it can create 5 to 7, but whereas here it can create each stage, this is talking about each stage 1.5, and the based on the number of stages this value will again increase. Okay, talking about pressure loss, pressure loss for looking for the one stage is quite high, but whereas it is very low, less amount of losses. Here centrifugal is very simple and easy, it is not easy. Cost, looking for the cost, it's very cheap because it's very easy to manufacture, so obviously it's going to be cheaper. And whereas axial it's kind of expensive because it's a complicated number of stages, lot many complications are there. Right, now this you can expect multiple selection type of questions from this centrifugal and axial. Right, so it's very important to remember this layout. Still we have some time, so we can solve this problem now itself. Let's solve this problem. Okay, let's look out for this problem right now. So a radial tipped blade impeller of centrifugal blower has the following data: speed they have given, outer diameter, inner diameter given, impeller width at entry they have given, stage efficiency is given. The absolute velocity component at the impeller entry is radial. So what they have given is at the entry it is the absolute velocity component at the impeller entry is radial, and has a magnitude they have given what is the velocity they are entering. If the radial velocity remains constant, so radial means CR velocity is constant, okay, throughout. Determine the pressure developed and the power required assuming constant density. Density is also being constant, 1.25 kg per meter cube. So what you have to find is the pressure developed and the power required. Okay, how can you find out that? What is the principle? You are going to make use of it. They have given n, so using n, okay, what you can find u1 and u2 because they have given d1, so d1 d2 they have given. Impeller entry width is given, stage efficiency eta is given, C1 is given. Okay, here they said CR1 equals to CR2. So what is the pressure developed? You have to find. They have given the rho value also. First of all, you have to understand that what is power required and power developed. What is the formula for that? What is the power or pressure developed? How will you find pressure developed? What is meant by pressure developed? That means what you have to find if they are asking you to find out pressure developed. Do you need to find RC? From RC, can you find P2 or P1? Right? So basically you have to find RC. Alright. Next, power required, P. So what was the formula we have seen? Power required, or basic formula, mass flow rate into work done. So as it is a radial tip, what is the condition we have seen for work done? So work done equals to U square, right? Work done equals to U square. How you can find U? Here they have given the speed. Can you find U? Right? Then mass flow rate. What is the formula for mass flow rate? Rho A V. So again, area, as they have given the width, so pi d w, you have to use, take any one inlet condition, the exit condition, find out for any one. Rho value is given, v is you can use cr1, and as they have given the radial velocity and the radial tip, so you will know what is a velocity triangle. Okay, so this is for your assignment. I will share this question, assignment question, to you guys. Okay, and tell me the answer for it. Okay, okay, so
Today's